Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fallout Bar from Online Darts after night one of the quarterfinals of the 2026 PDC World Matchplay. Anthony Eugenia here, going to host tonight, and joined by Liam and Dan. Welcome in, lads. How are you, Liam?
Very good. Thanks very much. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so it's good to be back on. Don't quite get on as much as I'd like, but it's good to be. It's like I've never been away.
Well, welcome in, Dan. How are you this evening?
Oh, I'm brilliant. Darts every night of the week, so it's a good week in my house. Some cracking quarterfinals as well. I can't wait to get into them.
It's a brilliant week. So we open up this evening with Dirk van Dijvenbode against Gary Anderson. Looking to see if the legend can keep up the form and keep the run up and keep stars in everybody's eyes. And it just I froze there for a second. My apologies. I said, we've got problems. I was on yesterday's show and we talked about looking for signs early on, and a lot of it was about Dirk, whether he was going to be on form, doubling in particular, and if he had any trouble with his doubling, would that lead to any frustration, and could Anderson kind of capitalize on that? And we didn't see much of that. The Dijvenbode comes out first mini session up 4-1, so it looked good early for Dirk, and then that continued. Gary played well, but didn't really kick into gear, and I've got some stats and looking at things. You thought, I made a note that maybe this could have been a turning point in the 12th leg. Dijvenbode misses 3 darts at double 16, and Gary had 75 left. He couldn't cash that in, but it almost felt like that might have been a turning point. It goes on until I really didn't feel like Anderson was in the match until he took out the big 1-5-4 in leg 27. Then it almost felt real that he could really make a run at this, but ultimately DVD goes through 16-3. So Dan, first, give me a sense of what we saw from Gary, and then the performance out of
it was just a case of just taking a little bit too long to get going. Yeah. He let Dirk, if a game over 29 legs, it's the legs that someone's going to win easily that's going to decide it at the end of the day, not the ones where both people are playing well. And Dirk got off the 7-3. He was playing well, but he wasn't putting up 110s while he was doing that. He was just winning pressure-free legs, and Gary got all our hearts going a little bit at the end. We thought he could maybe do it, but it was probably a leg or two too late. Once you get to 15, you've got to play flawless, haven't you? And he couldn't quite pull it off. But you know what? I think we have to give a bit of credit to Dirk. He could have folded when Anderson's putting on, was it 5 or 6 legs on the trot?
Mm-hmm. I think it was 5, and obviously the room was trying to lift Gary up.
Yeah, and he just about recovered. It was his last holder throw as well. If he didn't get that one, Anderson throws, we're going to extra legs. But Dirk van Dijvenbode, he broke my heart, but you have to take your hat off to him. It was a good performance to average 101 over close enough to 30 legs. You're doing something right. And to average that while only being 36% on the outer ring, the scoring power was phenomenal today. And if you can keep that up in the semi-final, we might have a very tasty match on our hands.
Mm-hmm. So Liam, what did you see? What was, was it just all about Dirk, or what was missing slightly from Gary tonight?
Well, look, as a massive Gary fan, it pains me to see these players playing really, really well against him in the majors the last couple of years. They just seem to bring their best game when they're playing him. But look, I suppose Dirk got out of the traps quickly. He put Gary under pressure. Gary just didn't seem to settle in the earlier part of the match. I mean, if you look at the session by session averages, I mean, his best one was the last one when he was really on the brink. But Dirk was really solid scoring wise. Gary was spraying a couple of darts here and there into 7s and 1s and 5s, but Dirk was really solid. I mean, his checkout percentage, I mean, he struggled a little bit on double 16, but the top sitting was absolutely brilliant. I mean, he very rarely missed that, and it kept getting him out of jail when it was getting a little bit tight sometimes. I mean, but I suppose ultimately Dirk had enough of a lead near the end. I was praying for a Gary comeback.
Yeah.
Like you said, the crowd was absolutely electric there at the end. And it just seemed like if he could have got that leg against the throw and then just been a leg away from catching him, he might have done it. But credit to Dirk, because I'm not sure many people would have given him much of a chance. I mean, we all expected maybe an Ando Littler semi-final. We all maybe wanted to repeat the Grand Slam final there from semi-final from a couple of years ago. But look, credit to Dirk. I mean, his scoring was unbelievable. I know Gary kind of caught him up in the end in the scoring department, but I mean, he hit more 180s. I mean, he hit twice as many 100+ visits there in the match, and the big checkouts as well, Tom plus checkouts. He had a good than Gary as well. So, look, credit to Dirk. He did enough, and I suppose he's kind of underperformed really from his standards. I mean, a couple of years ago when we got to the final at the Grand Slam, the Grand Prix, and I think this is his first semi-final since the Players' Championship a couple of years ago as well. So, look, credit to Dirk. I mean, it's not a place that Gary has found particularly easy to play in the last couple of years. I think that's his first quarterfinal since 2020 or 2019. So he's kind of got out first, second round the last couple of years. And I suppose they mentioned it quite a bit on comms there, the fact that Van Dijvenbode was battle ready really from his last two matches against Dobie and MVG. So he really has been through the middle the last couple of games, where Gando maybe just has had a little bit of an easier test going through. And I suppose not to be ageist, but Gary did mention in his pre-match interview that he said, I don't want this going all the way if I can get it done early. And I suppose near the end it was only going to go one way. If Gary was catching it, was going all the way. But look, I actually was very impressed by Dirk, and I think that this will give him a lot of confidence. I mean, getting to a major semi-final, probably the biggest on the calendar in the match play. So if he can keep that going, look, he's going to be a major underdog in the semi-final, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But look, overall, like he mentioned that he tends to get distracted and switches off in the middle of games, but he certainly didn't do that at any point. Little wobble near the end, but he still got over the line, and to beat Gary Anderson in any tournament is a great feat as well. So credit to Dirk there.
Yeah, I think that's two items that you brought up. It's certainly legitimate for Gary Anderson, just a player. I mean, I'm 56, so I'm not one to call Gary Anderson old, but this is a tournament where you're dealing with summer heat, extremely long formats. The play comes fast and furious. It's not as if the World Championship where you get a couple of days off or a week to spell and re-energize. This is also a test of strength in the match play. And to your point about Dirk, I was unsure of if there was going to be a dip in performance coming out of the Van Gerwen game. He was so solid. So I do think, and obviously we'll talk about his opponent in a minute, so his work is cut out for him. But I think for the Van Dijvenbode camp, very, very, very happy with the overall performance. So before we leave the match, Dan, anything on Anderson? You always got to give people a chance to talk about a legend like Gary Anderson.
I mean, you love Gary, he's going to show up to some majors and not really be that bothered and probably go out first round. But it seems like once a year, there's a major where Gary shows up and he's ready to play some serious darts. And when he does that, he can beat anyone in his day. I just hope he's enjoying his darts and we get to see a good few more years of Gary Anderson, because when he's on, there's nobody better to watch at the end of the day. It's absolute poetry from the hand. So I just hope he sticks around as long as he wants. If he doesn't want to do Pro Tours or floor events, that's absolutely fine. Let's just get him on the TV at the big events.
We'll take a Gary run like this every few months. So only two matches to talk about tonight. Our second quarterfinal saw the defending champion Luke Littler take on Josh Rock. Littler kept up this amazing average, and Dan Dawson and comms talked about it, that these averages are just astronomical, that he's got numbers that just a tournament average would be one of the best matches ever, and just some crazy stats. Your Rock played well in similar to Aspinall, that he stood through a barrage, came out only 3-2 down, 5-5 at the end of the second break, but that was it. The Littler just barrage continued up, and we finish up at 16-7. So Dan, let's talk about Rock first. Let's give Rock the kudos. It was always going to be a tough task, but he stood in there for as long as he could.
He did. I mean, I've got to feel a little bit for Josh Rock. He's coming off the back of a difficult debut Premier League campaign. He had, he done really well in majors last year until he played somebody named Luke, and it would typically go wrong for him, but that's pretty much anyone in the world. And it just felt a little bit like a repeat of that. He didn't do anything wrong, but I'm not convinced he has another 10 average in him over 20, 30 legs, which is what you need to compete with Luke. I'd like to think he'll hold his head up high, but I think with that scoreline, it's probably a little bit of a gut punch, because to average 100 and get beat so convincingly, it's got to hurt, and it's got to leave you asking questions of, how am I going to close that gap? Mm-hmm. I'm sure Rock's number 8 in the world. Any elite sportsman that can get to that level, they're not going to be content with being number 8 in the world. They want to be winning trophies, and there's probably going to be a few questions in his head. But I think if we look at the performance for what it was, he got in 5-5. He was doing really well. He won the second mini session. And then you go and get a drink from the kitchen, you come back, it's 10-5 Luke Littler, and we're just on the way to the finish line. It's why he's so hard to beat in this legs format. Sets, if you have a bad set, you get a chance to restart, but legs, if he can have a silly 10 minutes and it's game over. So I think there'll be a few questions for Rock. I don't think there's anything massively disappointing to pick out about this in particular performance, but he needs to find a way to get up them rankings and get on the other side of the bracket. I think that's probably got to be his plan, because he keeps bumping into Luke early on.
I'll give you a chance to come back to Littler. We'll circle through. Let's give Liam a chance to give us his take on Rock's performance, and then a little bit on Littler.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, the first 2 sessions, Rock, he stuck in there. I mean, it was very similar to Nathan Aspinall the last night, when he managed to just stay in there and try and keep on the coattails. But like Dan said there, I mean, in a blink of an eye, Littler rattles off 5 legs, and all of a sudden you're out of the game. I mean, it's just I struck since he's come on the street scene, you still think, oh, maybe he'll miss this one, or is there a chance for Rock to get in there? But ultimately, he leaves you so little chances. The pressure that's on the chances that you have to take is just the margins are too small, really. I mean, look, he averaged 100, so I mean, in most other games, he probably wins or gets near or thereabouts. But I mean, I haven't seen, I don't know, we're only at the quarterfinal stage at this stage now, but Wright's performance in 2021 was as dominant as I've ever seen anyone win a match play. I mean, if he keeps going the way he is, I mean, 100 plus 110 averages, I mean, it's going to be absolutely eclipse. I mean, look, still 2 more matches to go potentially if he's to win it, but he could absolutely eclipse all of those big performances from Taylor and Wright in previous match plays. But look, I suppose just alluding to something Dan said there, I mean, he had a really tough Premier League campaign, which I suppose I probably expected him to do a little bit better, but it's good to see him in the match play, getting to a quarterfinal. I mean, there's no shame in losing to Luke Littler, as we know. So, I mean, he'd probably take confidence from that as well, that he's won a couple of matches. He'll regroup. And look, again, I know it's not easy to, you're going to bump into Littler at some stage, but he will start getting maybe better draws where he'll be able to navigate maybe to semi-finals and majors. And that's why he just wants to keep putting himself, getting in those semi-finals and majors, trying to push on then to maybe a final. I mean, he's still only a young man. I think if it wasn't for Littler, we'd probably talking about Rock a lot more and his potential, the same as Van Veen, those kind of players. I mean, they're really, really good. They're really kind of pushing the boundaries there. I mean, he's learning all the time, but unfortunately, we just have a phenomenal player in our midst. And look, Littler is almost flawless again. And it almost seems like he's not even got out of 3rd or 4th gear. I mean, there still seems like if the pressure is on, he's just going to go bang, 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 and the game is going to be won. But look, credit to Rock. Quarterfinal is always a solid performance, the match play. But look, Littler is Littler at the moment.
Yeah, Dan, I hear a lot this week when they talk about this format suits Littler, and it very much akin to Taylor. He used to talk about a lot of his interviews that he wasn't too bothered when he would get into this long format, that, as things settle down, the quality and the top players sort of settle in. And that's what we've seen happen with Aspinall and both Rock. Just Littler being able to get through an early charge by the opponent, but just the length of the format. Can anybody live with him in these formats? And is anything going to derail Luke Littler for the rest of this week?
The only thing that can derail Luke Littler this week is Luke Littler. If he plays like he has done, he's going to win. Someone might run him a little bit closer if someone plays really, really well. But if he plays at 111 for 25 legs, I can't see how someone can beat him doing that. The only person maybe would have been Humphreys if Humphreys was there and playing his A game, but he's gone. I mean, just to put into perspective what we're watching, I know this is a little bit premature, but I actually did some research for tonight's show. So Phil Taylor has the record average at the match play with 106.31. During that last leg, it's probably changed slightly because there were a few darts through after this, but not many. Littler's at 111.27, nearly 5 points higher for the tournament. I mean, there's 2 games to go, but I just don't see how you beat him in this format. We've seen last year he can go 5-0 down. He'll catch you. If you keep up when he's playing really good darts, that's fine. You're going to slow down first, and I'm going to take 5 legs in 5 minutes. I just don't. I don't see a weakness at the minute. Unless he has an off night, I don't see how anyone's going to beat them this year in the match play.
Absolutely incredible. So any last thoughts on those matches, Liam or Dan, before we head into taking a look at tomorrow night? Liam first.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose not to discredit Rock, I did struggle to see him getting more than single digits in legs. I just thought it would just be too much of an ass for Littler. The Gary Anderson game, again, fair play to Dirk, because I would have expected Gary to win that one, and I kind of wanted maybe the blockbuster tie of the Van Gerwen one in the quarterfinals, and maybe the Gary one in the semi-finals with Littler. But look, in fairness to Dirk, he's upset the apple cart twice now. So look, I mean, Littler is at a different level. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about that semi-final in a minute. But look, overall, they were probably one-sided enough quarterfinals. I know Gary made it a little bit closer, and it was in fairness fairly dominant from Dirk for most of that. But look, I suppose when we look at the next 2 quarterfinals, I'm sure now it might be a little bit difficult to predict. But look, overall, I mean, we've seen almost, I mean, it was 100 averages more across the board this evening. So the standard is really, really good. And just on what Dan said there in terms of the leg play format, I mean, it must be very demeaning when you're standing behind Luke Littler, and if you're thinking, I'll have a good set, I might get him in the next one, or I might be thrown first in this set and I'll get him. But it's relentless, the set play format. You can really get away from someone like we saw with Dirk and Littler tonight. They both kind of got big leads and didn't really relinquish them. I know Gary had a little bit of a comeback, but it's just leg play format. When you get that big lead, it's very, very difficult to claw it back.
All right.
Couldn't agree more. Just to echo what Liam said, we've had 4-ton plus averages, a little bit one-sided, but look, we're at the business end of the tournament. The quality's there. Obviously, there was a little bit more quality by one individual, but I think everyone can hold their head up in some way.
Yeah,
but
indeed.
There's one name on the tip of the tongue after tonight. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good night of darts.
All right, boys, let's take a look at night 2 of the quarterfinals. All right, the second night of the quarterfinals tomorrow opens up with Ross Smith versus Gerwyn Price. So Dan, let's go to you. Obviously it's still best of 31. So give me a prediction, but let's also talk about, do we think, Ross, unfortunately there with Cameron Menzies didn't get a match. So does that do anything to the psyche? He's had time to recover, but do we think that's going to be a factor at all?
If it was someone less experienced, I would say possibly. I think Ross Smith, it's not his first time at the Matchplay. He might even be grateful, he hasn't had to have a 30-odd leg shootout. I'm sure he wasn't grateful at the time. He was concerned, but in hindsight and on reflection. So I don't think it'll hurt him. I think it could have if he was a less experienced player. Gezzy's obviously had a couple of battles. He looked a little bit better in his last match. I really hate picking on any match that involves Gerwin Price at the minute, because he always finds a way to make you look stupid, and then you've got to sit here tomorrow and look daft on stream. But I just can't see how Smith's going to win over this length of a match. I think even if Gezzy starts slow, I think he'll be able to limit damage, and even if he has a bad session, probably only lose it 3-2. And I just think at some point the quality will show, and we'll get the 3-2s, the 4-1s, and Gezzy will get away. I'm going to see it 16-12 in the end. I think it'll be close all the way, and there'll just be a little bit of a run at the end.
Yeah, another tip to the format, if you will, that the class and the style lends itself to the format, and Price will break through. So don't forget, put your predictions in the chat, and we'll put those up in just a moment. So over to Liam on tomorrow night's first quarterfinal between Smith and Price.
Yeah, look, this side of the draw is really open. Obviously Littler is the massive favorite in this side of tonight's half of the draw, but look, it's hard to know how Smith is going to cope with that match. I'm sure he'll be very happy that he didn't have to play more than a couple of legs to get the prize money that is on offer at the Matchplay, and he's straight into a quarter-final. And it's a shame, really, for Cam Menzies that after such a brilliant win against Humphreys that he didn't have a chance to try and make a quarter-final, because we know when he's in full flow, he's a great player to watch. But yeah, I'm kind of siding with Dan as well. I had 16-12 written down here, and I'm not going to change it, but I just think Price will have a bit more know-how and just a little bit more quality to get over the line. And I'm still expecting a big performance or big run from Price in a major, and it has to come soon. He has been kind of shown signs over the last year or so that he's going to go on a big run. And to be honest, look, I wasn't, when Price first started winning titles, I wasn't his biggest fan, but having been in arenas and that kind of stuff, he is a brilliant asset to darts. I think as when you're in the arena and you see the influence he has on the crowd, and now that they've started getting on his side and stuff, he's a brilliant watch when he's in full flow. And I don't think there's many better players to watch when he's pumped up, and he alluded to that in his last match, in the post-match interview. He said, I might have to bring it back a bit of the old Gezzy. I don't think it's particularly gone away, but we might see a few more fireworks there tomorrow night from Price, and I'll be all for that. So I just think Price will just have a little bit too much. I think with power scoring, if he gets that tops going, I just think I agree with Dan. I think it'll be maybe 16-12.
Okay. Yeah, Price is what I've heard called box office. He's always going to bring eyes to the TV and see tickets sold. Whether it's good Gezzy, bad Gezzy, it's going to be a fun and interesting Gezzy to watch. So let's take a look and see. We've got Price 16-12, just like the boys. Another one reaffirming 16-12 to Smith. All right, going the other way. That's an interesting pick. 16-10 to Gezzy, 16-13 Price, 16-7 to Smith. So we've got some Smith out there. 16-11 to Price, 16-8 to Price as well. And that's about where I am. We've got one more in here, 16-13 to Smith. So, all right, looks about 6 out of 10 going towards Price. I'm going to stay with Price and go 16-8. All right. So let's get that down, and we will move down to the second semifinal tomorrow. The 3-seed Jan van Veen takes on the legend that is James Wade. So Liam, will go to you first on Van Veen and Wade.
Yeah, to be honest now, Van Veen was kind of a bit of an outsider for this tournament. He wasn't really been spoken about at the start. He's a World Championship finalist at the end of the day, and he's done really, really well. Again, like I said earlier on, he's probably not being talked about enough because of what Luke Littler is doing. It's similar to Josh Rock. He's still only a young player, but if he gets that double 16 going, there's not many players better than hitting that in the world. I think this is probably on paper the toughest matchup to call, really. I do think, I mean, this resurgence from Wade the last couple of years, I mean, they said on commentary the other night, is this as good as Wade has ever played? Even though he's won majors in the past, I suppose the talent that's out there maybe has never been better. So he's probably not picking up as many titles. But I just think Wade just seems comfortable in himself. I mean, we know he has a few issues off the hockey from time to time, but he just seems a little bit more relaxed. We can see that in his persona on the stage. He just seems to have a bit of a joke sometimes looking at the cameras. His interviews as well. But he just seems a little bit more settled. And I think when Wade's in that kind of mindset and form, he can be very, very dangerous. I mean, look, again, we compare everyone to Littler, saying, can he take out a Littler? I mean, can anyone take out Littler? But I mean, he's been in and about those big tournaments recently. He's had a couple of deep runs, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Wade was to win here. I just think Van Veen might just have a little bit too much in the leg play format. I mean, it could go. I mean, this is a toss of a coin, really, for me. I just think it might be 16-14 in favor of Van Veen. But look, if it was 16-14 Wade, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's one of them.
Absolutely.
It's a toss of a coin.
Dan, how do you see that second quarterfinal tomorrow night?
I think this is a really tricky one, and it's going to come down to the first two sessions. I think this matchup of styles is really intriguing because I think of Jan Van Veen as probably a younger, slightly better version of James Wade at the moment. I think they're both incredibly consistent on the doubles. I know Wade's tops and tens and Jan's typically 16s, but I don't think there's many better with free in hand at a double. I think Jan's scoring's slightly better. But I probably prefer Wade when it comes to your ton plus finishes and your 86s popping around the board. I don't know. Jan should win, but I've got a slight feeling Wade's going to get off to a quick start.
All right.
We're going to get right to the death, and James Wade will get over the line 17-15, and we'll all be here eating breakfast very, very late on the fallout bar.
Fantastic. That's a good pick. I have to say I've got the same number, but as much as it pains me, it's similar to Anderson. I love a good James Wade run. I was very impressed by Van Veen the last round against Nyman. It feels like everything's coming together. And again, I echo what you've both said, that this is going to be tight, and we wouldn't be shocked if it would go either way. So yeah, I'm going to go 17-15 to Van Veen, and Wade pushes them really, really hard, very deep into it. But of course, it could certainly go the other way, just like Dan is picking. But I do think, this is going to be a stellar Friday night at Blackpool. So let's look into the chat and see what we've got. Let me scroll back just a little bit. There we go. Van Veen, 16-11. Van Veen, 16-13. Wade, 16-13. Wade, 16-14. Van Veen, 16-14. Van Veen, 16-14. Wade, 16-12. Van Veen, 16-9. That's about as big of a spread as you've seen. One more. Yep. Rob, 16-12 to Van Veen. So yeah, most of us are all expecting this to be pretty tidy affair and tight. Yeah. I definitely think a lot of 3-2 sessions, a lot of shared holds, that sort of thing, going really, really deep into it. So gentlemen, let's, if you want to give us anything before we head out on the overall tournament itself and maybe what you see coming, for the weekend. So Dan, first up to you.
I think it's been really, really good match play so far. I think we've had some exceptional games. I hope we haven't seen game of the tournament yet, because if we haven't, we're going to have a brilliant weekend. I think it's been really high quality. I mean, there was the slight sad moment of Menzies. Thankfully, It doesn't seem to be anything too serious. But a bit of frustration, he probably had his career best performance on a big stage, and you'd love to see if he can bounce with that momentum and go further. But I think the match play is one of the best tournaments. It's the best 32 players. There's not really any walkovers. Every game's a live game. I absolutely love it.
Liam, anything about this?
I have to say, like, as a sports fan, to go straight from the World Cup, and I know the Matchplay started the weekend as well, but just to, like, we've been so lucky, really, that we've had so much sport on. I don't know what's going to happen after this Sunday. We're just going to be like, we're going to be wondering what to do with our evenings now when there's no sport. I'm sure we'll find there'll be something else on. But look, like Dan said there, you get the best, the top 32 players in the world. So look, we keep saying Littler, look, he's an outlier. But all of the other matches, you look at this, we've had some shocks. Humphreys has gone out. We've had some big wins. I mean, there was some really good games. Van Veen, Neumann. Like, I mean, it is really tricky to call who is going to come through different ties and sections. And I think that's what makes the match play very, very good. I mean, some of the other tournaments, maybe with more players in, you can kind of predict a run for players, and you just know, say in the Grand Slam, oh, 2 of those players are going to get out, or the Worlds, they'll navigate. You might get 1 or 2 shocks. But I think it's been a really good tournament. And I hope now, look, tonight the games were a little bit one-sided, but I hope now tomorrow and then on from the semi-finals and final, we're going to get some real blockbusters. We didn't get any extra time tonight, so I'm expecting extra time tomorrow. Now hopefully there's a real sudden death decider or whatever like that, and we'll get some proper drama, and I think that the crowd as well at Blackpool, I mean, it's always said that the one of the best crowds in darts in Blackpool, and I think they've been brilliant all week as well. I mean, the atmosphere, I don't know how the pundits can actually hear what they're saying to one another, because the atmosphere is so good pre-match and in the middle of matches as well. So look, I just hope we have some blockbuster games. I'd love to see a Littler Price final. I think that would be, like you said, Anthony, earlier on box office. I think that would be that'd be what I'm looking for coming out of those ties. But if you said to me, Wade, Van Veen, any one of those from the other side of the draw would get through, I wouldn't be one bit surprised. But look, hopefully we get some great matches and we get a great finish at the weekend. I'm sure we'll all be watching very closely.
Indeed, we'll all be watching. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining us tonight. All right. Don't forget, tomorrow night, after the second night of the quarterfinals, you can join the Fallout Bar right here on Online Darts. So for Liam and Dan and the entire Online Darts team, I'm Anthony Eugenia. Thanks, everybody, for watching.